Facilities that make this program possible are provided by the City of Highland Park. Programs are produced independently by members of the community. The City of Highland Park is not affiliated with the following program or the producers of public access programming and is not responsible for the content. The following program does not reflect the opinions of the City of Highland Park.
Hi, welcome to another edition of What's This Show For? FOR, Friends of Ron. I'm your host, Ron Levitsky. You know, today in America, our modern life is somewhat of a paradox. We seem to be getting older than previous generations, but we also seem to be getting sicker. And that may be because we're getting older. Instead of dying off, we're struggling through. Interesting problem, and many of us seek different ways of either getting better from an illness or staying healthy in the first place. And like you, I've done the same thing. And a few months ago, I was at a yoga center where there were presentations by various groups. And I was struck by a couple of the speakers and asked them to come on the show to talk about health and fitness, and delighted to say they're here. So ladies, welcome. I have with me today Amy Landolt, who's from the Northshore Acupuncture Center in Skokie, and Malik Turley from Hip Circle Empowerment Center in Evanston. So both you ladies are not far from Highland Park, your places of business, and we're delighted to have you. First of all, let's talk a little bit about yourselves and a little bit of background. Amy, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I grew up in a really small farming community outside of Rockford. So there weren't a lot of alternative medicines that I was aware of, you know, very firmly entrenched in Western medicine growing up. My mom is a nurse. The only thing, I had heard of chiropractors because she would go on and on about my grandpa and the chiro that he was seeing being a quack, although he did really help his back. So I didn't have a lot of background in alternative medicine. When I went to school, I went to Northern Illinois, so stayed in the cornfields.
I went there too, so we're both Huskies.
Yeah, Huskies. And I spent 20 years in corporate America, so a long way from where I am today.
Okay, we're going to get to that in a moment. So, so really, you would not have even thought when you were 10 or 15 that you'd be doing acupuncture.
No, I had no idea what it was.
Okay, and Malik?
Sure, I actually grew up in Evanston, so I'm still in my hometown. And I, too, had a time in corporate America. I did not go to Northern Illinois University, though. Go Hawkeyes, if that's appropriate. And spent a good chunk of my life doing a lot of technology work and sitting behind a computer and leading a very sedentary lifestyle, which is a far cry from what I'm doing today.
Interesting, I was a teacher, and as years went on, I started getting student teachers who were not kids, but rather people who were saying to themselves, I don't want to do what I'm doing. I want to do something that's more meaningful to me. And it seems like both you ladies chose that path to do something that's more meaningful to you. So let's start with Amy. How did you become interested in, of all things, acupuncture?
So I was having problems sleeping. So there was a lot of stress at work. I was in a relationship that I really shouldn't have been in, and I'm a mom of 2 kids, so that's stressful in itself. And I couldn't sleep. So I tried what I was used to in the past and went to my doctor, and they gave me sleeping pills. And so I took the pills and I could sleep, but I didn't feel rested. I felt really groggy during the day, and it started to really impact my work. I couldn't concentrate. I couldn't get things done. I was on edge with my kids. And so I went to yoga first, and that helped a little bit, but I couldn't sleep. And I have this really persistent friend who insisted I try acupuncture. And I honestly tried it just to get her to shut up, because I thought there's no way someone sticking needles in me is going to make me fall asleep. And after one time, I fell asleep that night without any sleeping pills. Yeah, so it had only been 2 months, so that isn't a typical result, but I responded very well to the acupuncture.
And then from I take it you got so interested that you studied, and we'll talk about
Yeah.
that procedure as well. Okay. And Malik, what about your path?
Similar, though not sleep related. I was, from that sedentary lifestyle, experiencing a lot of back pain. I ended up having back surgery twice and wasn't finding what I needed to put myself in a place where I could do the things that I wanted to do. And that's what helped me find my way to both belly dance and fitness in general. And then working with women showed me how much work there is to be done in terms of helping women get stronger on the inside as well as on the outside. And that's what got me to where I am now with the Empowerment Center.
So it sounds like it's a holistic approach.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting though, what prompted you to really make the jump? It's one thing to say, I'd like to get more involved in working with physical aspect of illness and so forth and health, but to actually say I'm going to leave my job, which has some security and probably decent pay, to go to something that's less secure, not secure at all, and at least initially probably not very remunerative. What made you leave?
For me, I can tell you the exact moment. I'm also a doula, and I had attended a birth.
Let's explain to the audience what that is. D-O-U-L-A.
D-O-U-L-A. I was a birth and postpartum doula. So we are trained labor support, like a Lamaze coach, except we know what we're doing, and help families go through the childbirth process. And so I had spent all night working with a family, helping them bring their baby into the world, and then I had to go to my corporate job the next day, and my job actually was to teach a class of people how to use a mouse, like how to double click. And I said, how could I spend 24 hours with a family bringing a human into the universe and then also teach people how to double click? And the double clicking didn't work so well for me after that. So that was my turning point when I started to figure out how do I move into the other stuff that I'm doing away from my corporate job.
Okay, well, and let's talk in a bit about how you actually did that, which is, I'm sure, exciting. It's always exciting to start a new business. Okay, so Amy, you decide, gee, this acupuncture worked for me, so I'm going to get more involved with it. So what did you do then?
So I was talking to a friend doing some coaching on her career, and posed the question, if you could do anything, what would you do? And she couldn't think of anything. So I said, if I could do anything without consequences, I would become an acupuncturist. And that was that first spark for me. And so from there, it was too overwhelming to think about going to school full time. So I just did it one step at a time. So I did some research, found out there was a school down the road. And so to become an acupuncturist, you have to have a bachelor's degree or an associate's degree to start the program. And you go through 2,000 hours of classes and then 600 hours of clinic. So a lot of classwork and a lot of time in the clinic to get the experience.
So
to become
2,000
an
hours
acupuncturist.
of classwork, how many years? How many years is
It was a very intense 3 years. So I was in school full time, and it wasn't like when I was in college at Northern.
Yeah.
We didn't have spring break, we didn't have summers off. We were there on Thanksgiving, we were there on the 4th of July. It's very intense. So it's equivalent of like a 5-year bachelor's degree when I calculated the semester hours.
And like what kind of courses would you take?
We had biomedicine, so I had to repeat. They didn't count my 25 years ago taking chemistry and biochemistry. So I had to repeat those classes, anatomy, for the 3rd time, I think. But then you also have classes about philosophy, just the philosophy of Chinese medicine, and just very technical. Where's the point on the person? How do you put a needle in without puncturing a lung or liver? Important things like that.
I guess so.
And then the theory of Chinese medicine and how do you treat a disease.
Okay. And Malik, did you need any special training when you embarked on your studio?
Yes and no. All of the things that I do are a little compartmentalized pieces. So unlike Amy with a degree program, I need to hold different certifications in the different formats that I teach. On the business side, that's just me being scrappy, and I'm self-taught there. But I'm, certified in group exercise, certified personal trainer. I have a dance teacher certification, CPR. All the different things that I teach have their own training program.
Okay, okay. Let's get back, then we'll talk a little bit about what you ladies do. So when people hear the term acupuncture, a lot of people think it's strange, and because it's not a Western-based medicine, right? It's Eastern-based.
Right.
I remember when I was first teaching, I had a student whose dad was a doctor, and he used acupuncture, and I think he actually came to his class. It was so odd, and talked about what he did, and it was very impressive, but it was just so different from. I mean, I don't know that if traditional Western doctors, how they would have viewed that. I imagine today maybe it's changed, but how do you define acupuncture? What actually is it?
So, because my background with growing up with my mom is more Western, I tend to describe it that way. You will hear people in Chinese medicine talk about meridians, and so there's 14 main meridians, and they're pathways in the body that we use mainly to put acupuncture points on. There's points that aren't on those meridians, but we study which points on the meridians might address whatever health issue the person has. Those meridians are very close to nerve pathways. So there was a study done, and in 95% of the acupuncture points, they're within a centimeter of a nerve pathway. So there's thought that the acupuncture needles are communicating with the nerve pathways. And the results that we know we get from acupuncture are relieving pain, reducing inflammation, and restoring homeostasis in the body. So we call it balance in Chinese medicine, but it's homeostasis. And some of the mechanisms we do that by are increasing blood flow, because your blood has all the good stuff you need to heal, the oxygen, nutrients, anti-inflammatory, painkillers. So we get the blood flow to the areas where you need to heal. We reduce stress. We activate the body's immune mechanism, and those are just a few of the ways that acupuncture helps address issues.
So you mentioned meridians. Where would some of the meridians be in our bodies?
So one of the easiest ones is there's one that goes directly in the center of your body to the top, and then another one that goes around the back. So they're, down your arms, down your legs. A lot of times when we put needles in, it's below the elbows and below the knees or on the back.
And what do the needles do?
So they somehow send a message to those nerve pathways and send a message to the brain of how to respond. So they activate the body's natural painkillers, they increase blood flow. The exact way that happens, we haven't figured it out yet.
So did you have to take like Needle 101? I mean, how to...
Oh, yeah.
how to, and if we can get one of our wonderful camera people, we put out 2 acupuncture needles, and I have to admit, because I'm kind of needle phobic, and I looked at those, and they don't look that harmful, that hurtful. They look pretty innocuous. Malik, what do you think?
I've actually gone to Amy for acupuncture,
Have
so
you?
I'm perfectly comfortable with those guys.
So tell me, I mean, I don't want to get personal, but like when you went in, what are some things that Amy did?
First, we sat and talked about what things I was experiencing and needed work on, and then she had clearly done some homework ahead of time that I didn't see. You're on a table like a massage table, and depending on where the needles are going to go, either you're laying on your back or you're laying on your stomach. The needles go in, and it really just feels like she's flicking you with her finger, even though you intellectually know there's a needle going in, you don't really feel it. And then you get to lay there for 15, 20 minutes and just let the magic happen, and then she comes back in and takes them out, and away you go.
So you're not manipulating them?
No, occasionally we do. We use some electrical stimulation in certain pain cases. If you are familiar with the TENS machine that's used in physical therapy, it just creates a little electrical current. So we will do that sometimes for pain.
Okay, that's real interesting. So you just sort of lay there, and then somehow your body's getting stimulated. the nerves or the neural passages are getting stimulated. So it didn't hurt at all. Are there different sizes, or is this is it?
There is different size needles. The width is very similar, so very small. It's about the width of a hair. But the point is at the same location no matter what your size is. So if I have a bigger backside and I need to get to the point, I might use a bigger needle on me than I might on you.
Oh, I see.
To get to that point.
Okay, that's kind of a delicate, but I get it. I get it. Now, aren't the meridians somewhat misleading to the layman in that, like if you put a needle here, it would affect some other part of your body? It's not necessarily affecting the immediate area. Is that right?
It does. And when I was speaking at Methodist Hospital about that, I talked about that sometimes if your shoulder hurts, I can have a better response by putting a needle in your leg, and how bizarre that is for people. But in Western medicine, they say, no, that makes sense a lot, because oftentimes, you know, if you have a heart attack, you feel it in your shoulder, or gallbladder pain, you can feel it in different areas of your body. So we already know that there's connections between all of those areas of the body, and somehow you're able to impact the body by identifying those.
So if I came to you and said I have headache problems, you wouldn't necessarily put the needles in my head?
No, I rarely do.
Okay, they would go somewhere else.
Yes.
And presumably that would help. When you had your sleep issues, where did they put the needles?
So actually, insomnia is my specialty.
Okay.
And there's 12 different Chinese patterns that can cause insomnia. Most people have multiple. So it depends on that pattern. So for me, in particular, it was below my elbows, below my knees, and a few in my ears.
And how did the doctor know that?
He asked me a lot of questions, but also he checked my pulse and my tongue. So in Chinese medicine in particular, those give us a lot of clues to what's going on. So when we check the pulse, we're not checking to see what the rate is. We do check whether it's quick or slow, but the quality of the pulse. So when you feel enough people's pulses, you notice how thin, how thick, how deep it is, and that gives us a bunch of clues that help us identify that.
Is there a general rule of thumb regarding how many sessions you would need to go to find some relief, either from a headache or sleep problems?
So what I have found in my experience is, unless it's an acute injury, most people need 4 or 5 treatments to get more significant relief from whatever is going on with them.
And once you get the relief, do you need to go back for maintenance?
It depends on if you address the root cause. So I have people that have digestive issues, and part of their digestive issues, they're not managing stress, or they're eating McDonald's every day. If they want to keep eating McDonald's every day, they're going to send my kids to college. They're going to have to keep coming. But if they start eating healthy, start practicing yoga or meditation, they might not ever need to come back for acupuncture.
So it's a kind of a holistic approach,
right?
Which is what we talked about. You do a holistic. Let's talk about your studio. And again, when I went on your website, I was just so impressed with the different kinds of activities. I mean, when I was growing up, you did jumping jacks,
right.
you know, and there wasn't, and I got a friend whose daughter in New York City who does, teaches women pole dancing for physical fitness, and it's just grueling. I mean, I saw pictures of her, and it's amazing, the energy. So tell us a little about your studio and what goes on there and why those things go on.
Yeah. So Hip Circle Studio turned into the Hip Circle Empowerment Center this summer. So we became a nonprofit, and our mission is to empower all women and girls through dance, fitness, and community to believe they are strong, beautiful, and worthy of attention. And we do that by creating an environment for them in our space that is celebrating them from the minute they walk in the door and out into the world. And we work really hard with our teaching staff to make sure that all of our classes are being delivered through that empowered lens. So our language is different, the way that we encourage is different. The things that we do are fun and pretty I guess to me they're normal, but I can see why from your perspective you'd say, wow, those are really interesting things. So we have belly dance as our dance method. We have Pilates and yoga, which you find more places. We have a kettlebell amped class that's a choreographed kettlebell workout, so it kind of combines dance and strength training. And then we've developed a couple formats. Moxie boxing is our answer to like a cardio kickboxing class. And we have a stretch and roll class that is 30 minutes with the foam roller and stretches that would go well with Amy's stress relief and sleep prep. And we do classes for mothers and daughters. We have mother-daughter belly dance. You can bring your daughter to any of the classes that we offer as long as she's 8 or older.
I saw that you had prenatal and postpartum belly dancing. Tell me about the postpartum.
So on the postpartum side, well, really, belly dance actually comes from a communal sharing of information. And so mothers would pass it on to daughters, and then those daughters, when they got old enough, would pass it on to theirs. And I actually started belly dancing tied into the doula work because it's good for women in labor and it's good for women postpartum. When you grow a human, all of the muscles in your abdomen have to accommodate this new person that you're growing inside. And your pelvis is being put through paces that it's not used to. And a lot of the movements that we do in belly dance help the baby get into a good position to come out and help mom reconnect with all those muscles that feel really different on the other side of childbirth, to get to the point where she can control her posture and reduce back pain and build up the strength again that she needs in order to carry that toddler around and do all of the work of just being a woman walking around in the universe. So I love having mamas while they're pregnant come back after their postpartum wearing their baby to class or leaving baby with somebody else and having that be their little found time alone to reconnect with themselves as a woman, separate from the fact that they have that small person.
This is kind of a crazy question, but how specialized is belly dancing? How do you, it seems like an old art form.
It is.
And so, like, how does one find out about this?
Well, I luckily found a little studio that had soap paint on the window that told me that there was a belly dance class. That's how I got to my first one. Now, that was 15 years ago, so pre-Facebook and all of that stuff. There's a surprising number of people who do belly dance. You just wouldn't realize it necessarily. So we're on the internet and we have dance communities and we go out and perform in public, and that's how most people get the inkling that maybe it's something they want to do, because they see it and it's fun, and they seek us out and then they come and are students.
So there are physical reasons to do it.
Sure.
And there are emotional reasons to do it as well. And would you go as far as say there are spiritual?
I think yes. I tend to shy away from the spiritual just because I feel like that's something really personal for individuals. It's not something that I'm ever going to teach. On a physical and on an emotional level, there are absolutely things that we are intentionally passing on in class. And belly dance in particular is using all of the pieces and parts that women bring to the table in a way that makes them theirs and helps them, again, identify with that strength that they have and undoes a lot of societal messaging. We're taught when we're little girls to do this more, or to sit like this and close up and cover up. And when we're dancing, shoulders are back, chest is high, and we are not apologizing for taking up space. And that, in and of itself, is something that if you get that out of an hour class, you're doing pretty well.
Indeed. Well, as we move along in time, I wish we could talk. We'll come back towards the end, I think, to that. But Amy did also deals with essential oils, which I think are pretty cool. Tried some, and they're pleasant fragrance. Maybe you could discuss a little bit real quickly what essential oils are. The term essential obviously is an unusual term. So what are they?
So,
and we can perhaps show
this
some.
is just, these are some of my favorites.
I'll hold it while you talk. Okay.
Essential oils are a volatile aromatic compound. So they're an essence of the plant. That's where the essential comes from. And they come from the leaves, the stem, the roots, but the parts of the plant that the plant uses to protect itself, to help it reproduction, attract bees, for example, repel pests, and just help with regeneration when there's injury. And so we can actually use essential oils as healing benefits. And these are being looked at a lot more in Western medicine right now, especially with some of the things that are resistant to antibiotics. A lot of people are using essential oils, even in hospitals.
What are some plants that are popular?
So lavender is one of the most infamous. Lavender is used a lot to relieve tension, to help people sleep. But lavender is also good for skin. So if you're not good with plants and you can't grow an aloe plant, it's very good with any skin irritation.
So you can apply it to your skin, or you could inhale it?
You can inhale them, you can apply them to your skin, and some oils you can ingest. But if you're going to ingest something, you want to make sure that you know the quality of the oils
Okay, yeah.
and what quantities are safe.
Okay, and what are some other plants that are famous for?
The most used are really peppermint, lemon, and lavender. So lavender, we talked about. Peppermint is really good to quell if you have a nauseous stomach at all. It gives you energy, so it's a great pick-me-up to smell. Frankincense is one of the oldest that's been used, and that comes from the resin of a tree, Boswellia tree in Somalia.
Oh.
And that is actually an oil that can pass the blood-brain barrier. So that has a lot of special healing properties that are used in both Western and alternative medicine.
Okay, okay. So it's something that I guess more people are becoming interested in as they look at alternative medicines, and certainly it's not harmful, except you don't want to swallow it without making sure it's okay. But otherwise, all right. And does this in any way work with your acupuncture?
So I use essential oils along with acupuncture in my treatments, and also as an adjunct, something that people can do on their own to help with their own healing. And I offer classes for my clients actually it's open to anyone on a monthly basis, so they can learn more about essential oils, because it does take some time to learn what to use, how to use it.
Okay, and do you use them with your, we've got your, see we have your
Okay.
connections that people can call you, contact you. It's great. Malik, do you use this with any of your clients?
So I don't use it with the dance piece, but our yoga teacher incorporates essential oils into her classes at Hip Circle.
Okay.
So.
And I just want to finish up with this empowerment of women is really impressive. And are men in your classes?
They are not. We are a women-only space,
okay.
yes. We are open to anyone who identifies as a woman, and we do limit it as that. We do have some ally events, and those we incorporate men into, but for the most part, everything we do is women only.
Okay, and I guess it's women of all ages.
Correct.
What's the age range generally for some of your classes?
So the youngest daughters are 4 in mother-daughter belly dance. So we do have toddler classes as well. And then there's the babies that are being worn. So really, there is no young age. The oldest student I've ever had was 89. That's the highest age I've gotten to. I'm ready for the 101-year-old person to walk in the door. That'd be awesome.
I've seen some elderly people who are amazingly flexible with yoga, so I don't doubt that they would benefit from that kind of exercise or activities. It just sounds like you have a lot of fun there, as well as people learning how to take care of themselves better. And I imagine a lot of friendships are formed by women who are feeling more empowered.
Yes.
Do you think there's like a political aspect to this? I know you don't intend it, but
I would say yes, there's a political aspect in that if a woman feels strong and worthy of taking up space, she's going to take up that space everywhere she goes.
Okay, and with that, we'll conclude. Malik, Turley, thanks so much for Hip Circle Empowerment, and Amy Landolt for the Northshore Acupuncture Center. Best of luck to both of you, and it was a great show. Really enjoyed it, and thanks so much for being on it. Hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. This is Ron Levitsky for What's This Show For? FOR Friends of Ron. We will see you next time. The ladies